G'day mate and welcome to the Friday Facts 283, preparing to launch. Now as always, I've got good old Mojo here with me.
Hello.
So this is a fairly long Friday Facts. We've got lots of things in it, about 17, which is coming. They still say it's coming. It hasn't been cancelled, hasn't been postponed. It's like winter, it'll get here eventually. But we're going to start at the top. So at the moment they're doing playtesting. They've been able to get 3 multiplayer bases in the late game stage in a few days, which I don't know what that means. We normally get to a late stage base multiplayer, especially in 5 hours, 6 hours. So, yeah, I don't know why it's taking them so long. But in that, they learnt a bunch of things. So, tile pollution tweaks.
This was an interesting one.
It's something I've known for a very, very long time, and I'm sort of wondering. I'm guessing it just comes down to we don't play our own game nearly enough. And water absorbs a lot of pollution.
It does.
I think it's even more than grass, or as much as grass.
It was always. I think it was always a little bit more than grass from memory.
So yeah, if you've got a map with a lot of water on it, you don't really have pollution troubles. On top of that, you've got natural choke points to stop the biters. So they've tweaked a lot of the settings. They've already pre-tweaked some of the settings between grass and sand. Was brought closer together, so your old desert maps weren't nearly as bad as they had been in the past with 16 and 15. 15 had desert, didn't it? Yeah, it did.
Yeah, that desert. It had.
We didn't encounter it nearly as often as we did with 16.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they've changed a lot of the absorption settings. At the same time, one of the map standing sessions is the I had this before. Dispensation rate. Dissipation rate. There you go. You enjoy this far too much.
Yeah, I do.
Which controls how fast
I'm not the one who can't pronounce anything.
Oh yeah. I think it only happens when you're live and the mic's actually recording.
Yes.
So yeah, it basically controls how fast the pollution just disappears off the map. How quickly the map eats the pollution.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, they had to dig through their own code to see how the option actually works. Which was a little bit ridiculous, because it's something with me running the community maps. Every month, I'm tweaking these settings to make it harder and harder and harder. And now I'm probably going to have to go back and probably relearn how my old settings affect the new settings.
Admittedly, this is something that hasn't been touched since version 12, I think.
It hasn't been touched in, forever, as far as I know.
Because I know my map was started on 12.25, and it has different default pollution, dissipation, and absorption settings to 12.31. Something like that. Small little trivia.
Yeah, more little trivia from people who've been playing this game for far too long.
Yes.
So, the range was 1 to 1,000, and now the range is a little bit more sensible. It's from 10% to 400%. So, and they've already said for a death world, the preset value is now 50%, which means the ground will absorb 50% as much pollution as it did previously. Or you go whack it all at 400%, which means on a mega base, you can have a tiny little bit of pollution around the center and nothing else.
It's interesting it's now a percentage, not a hard value.
Yeah, it really comes down to humans are easier with dealing with percentages rather than hard values, so I think it's a good change. And probably means people actually play with the setting now rather than just looking at it and go, nope, not touching that. Not.
It's funny because the old range was 1 to 1,000, and I think you only ever used like 1 to 100.
Yeah, at 100, all the pollution just disappears.
Yeah.
It was
even 10. It disappears pretty quick.
Yeah, 10 was 10 times the default values. It was ridiculous. At the same time, we've got spawner pollution hoarding fix. So, in case you don't know, spawners absorb the pollution that reaches them after absorbing a certain amount of pollution. They send a unit to join a attack group. Now, there's lots of different variables in there to affect how often they're allowed to spawn new biters or spitters to go out and get you. Along with expansion parties and that sort of stuff. But they found a bug by I guess, not confirming what old things were in the code.
Something that really probably was never really noticed.
Yeah, it was not noticed and not observed, especially without having this particular bit of debug code on the screen.
Which is, I think that's fairly new as well.
I'm willing to bet that's brand new because I haven't seen anything like this. Of course, I don't have all the super advanced developer debug code or debug tools. But yeah, it looks like a new interface they've opened up, and you can see it's absorbed 110,000 or 114,000 pollution. Only needs 200 to spit out a new unit, and also has a 186 tick cooldown. So it's got enough pollution stored in it for about 500 units, and it's going to be spending a long time. What's that? 1,000 minutes plus,
something like that.
Yeah,
easily.
Before it's ever going to need any more pollution. So they've changed that.
I was just thinking about it. I must admit that I never put 2 and 2 together because I always knew spawners that you could use them as the ultimate pollution sink. If you want to stop pollution spreading, you just have spawners nearby.
They are, and that's the catch, because what they've done is they've set it up so the first layer of spawners will absorb enough pollution to get 3 times the most expensive unit. So in the case of pollution needed 200, it only absorbs 600 pollution, and then the rest of pollution will flow over that spawner and past it to the next spawner. But the thing is, and I'm sure this is why it was engineered this way a long time ago, many unoptimized codes ago, that it was done that way so really your spawners stop the pollution expanding past that point. Because if you ever look at a map where you've gone out and cleared a lot of biters, pollution expands way further into the blacks of the map where you can't see. And it's something I use on my community maps. We actually set the spawners to absorb an incredibly ridiculous amount of pollution so they don't go past that first row of biter bases. On the same time, I also set the spawner the spawning cooldown to like 30 ticks, so you get biters non-stop to sort of counteract it. But it means that the map's not constantly being explored by the pollution, because that's what happens. As the pollution gets to the edge of the map, it has to generate more map tiles for the pollution to expand onto before it's finally dissipated 100%. So
it's certainly going to lead to a 3 steps forward, 2 steps back with performance.
Yeah, it's something that they have said. The solution's not simple. Spawner now has an upper limit how much pollution it can absorb, which is 3 times. We made some basic testing of this change. It seemed that it is survivable enough for release. We might want to tune the default pollution evolution attack modifiers during the 17 stabilization. So they are going to play with it.
It is something to watch out for, because it means that the value will change, and so the save may not be consistent with those settings.
Yes, which is
unless they push a way to migrate the settings.
Which is going to worry me, because I'm going to be running a community map starting as soon as 17 releases, and we're going to be doing a Death World preset, probably with tweaked settings. And yeah, we're going to see how far we get on 17 with maybe even with marathon mode. We'll see. We'll see if marathon modes had an overhaul.
Vanilla out of the
this is the community
Death
map.
World out of the box.
This will be a community map, so there'll be lots of players
I
to
strongly recommend Death World out of the box first.
Well, we'll see what happens. But yeah, this is...
You will see.
I guess my only advice I could give Woob as somebody who's played with these sort of settings often is maybe just have a cap that if pollution's got 10 chunks into the unexplored territory, that rather than generating more chunks, it just deletes the pollution at that point and just doesn't generate those chunks until you walk out and explore further.
That'd be nice.
Just a suggestion.
It's funny because the same is true of out of map. It just keeps on generating, because I think out of map doesn't absorb pollution.
Out of map. So when a player's near the edge of the map, it does do 5 chunks into the blackness on a capped map. So that's with a ribbon world of some type. It will do 5 chunks past that, and then it just disappears. So if they implemented the same sort of code somehow, that if it's 5 chunks or 10 chunks into the fog of war blackness and then the pollution just deleted, magic, done, happy.
Admittedly, the user base that actually benefits from that is pretty small.
It is, but I think anybody who builds a big enough base is going to run into these sorts of problems, and I think it's just a good idea to throw in rather than somebody coming to Reddit and go, hey, my base is down, I can't build as big and anything else, and for all these reasons, and somebody brings up, say, look at your pollution view and see how far off into the blackness it is. That's why. The only way to build as big now is to turn off biters and turn off pollution, and which is unfortunate because I like building. Sometimes I like building a big base with the torment of biters. On to the next one. So biters get stuck in their own bases. This has been a long-known problem.
Long-standing issue.
And you can see by our red little hitboxes that these two little blue ones here in the middle and these guys around here are definitely having problems navigating through their own bases. So Woob has done a simple little change. We've added a new optional property to any definition called Map Generator Bounding Box, which defaults to collision box. It can make a large limit to place the entity on the map generator to keep the space around an entity clear. It can it's also used when biters are building new bases, adding a one-tile space, safe space around all spawners and worms, force the base to have enough space for the biters to move through them. And it looks better. I would probably like to see a 2-tile gap, because I know biters will still get not stuck, but slowed down.
What I find interesting is that none of those worms and biter spawners are on any kind of grid.
No, it's all very, very... Oh, actually, no, you're right. They're completely off the standard Factorio grid system.
If they were actually on grid, then it wouldn't have been a problem in the first place.
Correct.
Because it would always have a fixed box. Admittedly, then you would have a very grid-looking...
A very, very, staggered, square, tileable, No.
The other thing with that biter base is there's no crap underneath that was pictured in one of the previous FF.
Under the spawners?
Yeah.
Yeah, like the Zerg ground cover that...
There's supposed to be some kind of ground cover underneath those.
Yeah. Which I was actually looking forward to, and it doesn't exist. So maybe it's just missing from the screenshot?
Maybe, hopefully.
Maybe
how cute are the new biters anyway?
They look very, very deadly.
Yes.
And you can definitely tell a biter from a spitter. And I have noticed...
Oh, you always could.
Well, you always could because they stood up, but now they don't stand up anymore.
One has a lot more legs than the other.
Yeah, and I've noticed in both these pictures there seems to be a lot more spitters than what I'm used to.
Really? You haven't seen a biter base which is just spitters?
Oh yeah,
I have. No biter spawners?
I have. But yeah, there just seems to be a larger percentage of spitters. Normally it's a lot of biters with a little bit of spitters, and yes, there are occasionally you get spawns that are just nothing but spitters.
I think that's mostly spitter spawners too.
Yeah.
I think the orange ones are spitter spawners.
Oh, that's good. The point. They have a slightly different colour. I don't know. Normally, good biters are dead biter and just shoot them. Hold the space bar and run through.
Both in the current, there is 2 different
I know there's 2 different types, but I've killed enough of them to not care. I just hold the space bar and with the SMG and run through the middle and hope for the best. This is why I have death montage videos with 31 deaths in 31 days. Anyway. We got another one. Biters getting stuck on belts. So the strategy to put belts in front of biters to upgrade a defense is a nice piece of emergent gameplay, but we noticed that it tends to be a little too strong. It was discovered that they actually have a bug in the code, and you can see in the past biters would get stuck even on yellow belts, which was just silly.
Yeah.
So
Pusilla.
Yeah. I had Google read it and Google it instead. Ran in and fixed the code, and now biters... they get slowed down a little bit by yellow and a little bit by red and a bit more by blue, but it really doesn't do much.
Doesn't have the effect that it used to.
No.
It's a good thing that I never relied on using belts as a defensive mechanism.
Well, I did see one on Reddit a little while ago, which was just like belt immunity. You could put down belts, and the biters would just loop around these belts forever. They could never get off them. And as long as you had something that shot them eventually, so they didn't get stuck and ate the belts, everything was fine. But yeah, I love this improvement. I thought the belts was a little bit of a cheap maneuver.
It was always I found it always inconsistent too. Sometimes it worked, sometimes they just ran up and ate it straight away.
Yeah, for yellow belts, I don't mind the idea, and I really think that maybe yellow belts should provide a bigger slowdown, right, to the biters, and then be no speed increase for red and blue. Just to give you a little bit more of a I don't know. A little bit more of a use, because I really think there is no point to putting down red belt and blue belt. It's far too expensive. The speed difference is in theory a lot. It's twice as fast and then 3 times as fast belt wise, but it barely slows down the biters at all, even at blue speed.
Personally, my preference was always to just put down laser turrets instead of belts.
Or
flame turrets.
Laser turrets, flame turrets, use your belt to move a big line of ammo to feed into gun turrets. Yeah.
Lots of options.
Lots of options. Anything better than having a defense that relies on belts. So we have the introduction of the new campaign. So they're going to be releasing the first public version of the new introductory campaign. Because this will remove the old First Steps and New Hope's campaign. So if you've ever wanted to play First Steps and New Hope, now is your time to do it. Go and play them right now. For an experienced player.
Before they're gone forever.
Yeah, for an experienced player, what did you say? Like an hour's worth of gameplay, maybe?
Well, it was what got me on the game in the first place. Back in when it was version 12 or version 11.
Back in, yep, when we rode horse and buggies back to to work and school every day, yep. A long time ago.
Whatever the meme was at the time.
Yeah. I think I know I've played them, and I guess they're probably about an hour's worth.
Yeah, it's like half hour to an hour for the demo campaign.
Yeah. And they've said the main campaign will be added to the game later, and we'll be providing more details on the introduction of the main campaign next week. So next week, when 17 still hasn't been released, we can find out about that stuff, right?
Yeah, this was already mentioned in one of the previous FFFs that the NPE was coming, and then the new campaign was in 18.
Yeah, it's something I'm still dying to play. That's one of the really things that I really want to sink my teeth into and play it sort of from a new player perspective, because I
want to see it from a multiplayer perspective.
Oh, I don't know if it would do multiplayer. Would it?
I mean, well, that's just a scenario, so there's no reason why it couldn't.
I guess we could leave this to the expert of Mojo to copy out the scenario code and reload it in a multiplayer server.
You just host local and then load the NPE.
I assume they would lock that out, but now you say it out loud. Probably not.
There's nothing stopping you. I'm hosting out any of the current campaign maps. I've seen them done multiplayer.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, as like my YouTube channel, I do lots of blind playthroughs where I know nothing about a game apart from this is the main menu and we hit start. And I'm looking forward to playing through that campaign and the Factorio campaign very much from a new player experience and see how we go. So yeah, we go on to fluids. They're putting in the fluid mixing prevention and the fluid update optimizations, but the new algorithm that did the funny different flow rates and everything else, they're leaving for further research because the office couldn't agree, I guess is the best way of putting this one line. The office couldn't agree of how it worked and how it should work and all that sort of stuff. So rather than delaying things, they're putting in some now and some maybe later.
It's the first 2 stages, I think, are in, and the extra stuff on top of it to further improve the system is getting pushed back.
Well, the way I read it is the fluid mixing prevention and the fluid update optimization in, but the new algorithm being that steam flows in a pipe faster than like crude oil, because crude oil is sticky and icky and sticks to the inside of the pipe.
Yeah, that's the nice stuff which was meant to come later, which was meant to be on top of the new algorithm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's no loss there.
No loss there, and I don't even know if I want to. I don't even know if it has to be in the game, because it's gonna screw up a lot of people like Madzuri who do the hard maths on the game and says that, you know, after 3 pipe segments you need to have a pump to maintain maximum pipe flow. It'd then be, okay, for steam it's once every 8 segments, but for oil it's once every 2 segments, and that sort of stuff. And it adds realism, but I don't know if the realism benefits the game, I guess is the best way of putting it. So I'd love to hear more from the team about the fluids and what the 2 arguments were left and right on the fluid system. Maybe that's for future Friday Facts and their thoughts, and then they can lay into the forums and see what our thoughts are. And yeah, so fluids are half in, well, mostly in, but some of it's left out. That's fine. The plan is to update the wiki to the experimental version immediately on release. And Bilka's run a bunch of scripts to pull the data out of the game and shove it on the wiki, and then wait for some slow human to update more info as required. Furthermore, a clone of the 16 stable wiki will be made available on a read-only wiki at stable.wiki.factorio.com. If people want to refer to the wiki for just version 16. I don't know why. I don't know how somebody who's still playing with 16 and doesn't know about 17 is going to know to look at stable.wiki.factorio.com, but, you know, we'll leave that there.
Admittedly, there is a pretty large player base which are not aware of the experimental updates. Like, most people who are reasonably into the game are.
There is, but on the flip side, those people that don't know about it, if they go to the wiki, are they going to know that they're looking at a 17 wiki or a 16 wiki? Because I don't know what the URL is for the wiki. I literally go to Google and I type in Factorio wiki, press enter, and it's the top result. And
admittedly, it keeps the information from previous versions, generally.
It does. It does. Generally, the wiki does have, you know, and we've had to look it up for these videos, that find out what version walls were first introduced and what artwork they had and all that sort of weird and wonderful stuff. The wiki is a very good resource for finding out both current information and old information. But yeah, I just don't know if somebody who is using the wiki and doesn't know about the experimental version will end up landing on the right wiki page, I guess is the best way of putting it. We've now also got mod thumbnails. So the in-game mod GUI will now show thumbnails alongside mod descriptions. Because it will also work in offline mode, we've got a simple little one line here that you need to put your thumbnail.png alongside your info.json with a resolution and put the mod on the portal that way, and that way the in-game GUI can access the thumbnail and make your mods look even prettier.
Until someone puts a meat spin on it or something.
Yeah, until somebody screws something up, which, yeah, we'll just leave that there.
No further comment.
Yeah. Speaking of things pretty, we've got high resolution chests. It's common to think smaller entier is easier to make. Less pixels equals less work. And I have to agree and you'll probably agree as well, trying to do Twitch emotes at 32 pixels by 32 pixels. The smallest,
not a lot of space.
Yeah, it's not a lot of space, and the less space you have, actually, the harder it is.
It's to get that definition in.
Yeah, every pixel is a very important pixel. So yeah, he's been, who's this? Albert's been doing the graphics work. We've got our wooden chest, our iron chest, and our steel chest. And thank God an iron chest looks different from a steel, finally. Because on the ground, I have troubles identifying the two of them, because there's just a little bit of a shade difference.
One was red, one was sort of blue.
One was red, one was brown. Ish.
Oh, well, the iron one was more brown, and the steel one was more blue.
Yeah, there was a very, very little difference, and when I'm at max zoom, I couldn't tell. So we've got our wooden chest, our iron chest, which looks different to our steel chest, thank God. We've got our infinity chest, which is part of up until this point, it's been part of the debug code, but now because of the map editor, it will be in the game as part of the map editor, so you can access it. And I really like
access it a bit more properly.
Yeah, you can access it easier. We'll put it that way. I really like the Infinity Chest. I have to admit, I'm not sure if that's
nice.
I'm not sure if it's the hinges at the front or if it's got 2 latches or 2 handles or. Yeah, I really like the Infinity Chest. I will agree with Mojo because under here we have the storage, passive, active, buffer, yep, and requester chest. The requester chest, I'd like to see in a darker blue. Just saying.
Yeah, it's a little bit light.
But yeah,
what I was saying before was that I don't like the fact that the steel chest doesn't match the style. The iron chest matches.
Yeah, all the provider chests look like the iron chest because Discord dropped out for half a second.
Yes,
but they need a steel chest to make them, and I agree with Mojo straight away. I was like, that's. Yep. I also don't know why they have handles.
Yeah, unless it's for the robot to latch on to. Picks up the entire chest.
We already know robots will pick up entire chests, entire train stations. If you've got enough roboports and enough robots, they'll pick up a whole base and move it over one tile.
Yep.
But that's besides the point. I'm not sure why they have handles. And all the other chests have one handle for like one player to open, whereas this has got 2 handles to, I don't know, grab both. It's so you and I can grab one end of the chest each in multiplayer and run off with it, okay?
Oh, it's adorable, isn't it?
Yeah. I do love that the tops open and close. I will say that. That's definitely a little bit that I love.
I wonder if that's going to open when bots hover over them.
I would imagine it will, the same as a Roboport will. But I'm also worried on the flip side how much that's going to add to the game when I have some of these really large bot builds where bots are literally dumping things into chests constantly and pulling things out of chests constantly. I'm wondering what impact that opening and closing may or may not have on the game, and whether it's going to do any calculations to turn the animation on and off.
It's probably not much.
It's probably not much, but after you add like 500 chests to a green circuit build, and then you need 4 or 5 green circuit builds, it's going to add up.
Well, I should say it's probably what am I trying to think of? It's getting to that time of the afternoon where I can't think.
The brain's turned off.
Yes, the brain just turned off.
Yep. So, on to the continuing down the list, we've got a high-resolution rocket silo. So, this one's a little bit different. So, there's not many NE graphics remaining that we have not touched in the last few years. Be a conversion to high resolution, a redesign, or both. The rocket silo has several specific qualities to make it very intimidating, and now is time to face them. We recognise that the design of rocket silo, you can see in 16, has various issues we'd like to address. The first is it was a 9x10, so you couldn't rotate it, it would only rotate at 180 degrees, which could have said was a little bit frustrating.
Just a tiny bit.
Yeah, we live with it. A lot of elements of the old model were too blocky and artificial for the modern Factorio look. And we've basically replaced all the areas of the model with new meshes. Albert helped me by creating the robot arms and their housings in the concrete base of the rocket silos, and you can see below. And I don't know, I'll zoom out so we can see the whole thing at once. I do like it, but I don't like it.
I think it just gets the it's different look going on now that I think about it. But at the same time, it just visually looks different. Like it's a different art style to it.
Yeah, we were having this conversation before we started that the old Factorio graphics, the ones that even some of the early high-def versions felt a little bit more steampunky, brown.
Yeah, very, very much brown.
Had a good layer of dust thrown on them after they'd been finished, being shined and polished.
Yeah.
At the factory on the way out, thrown on the back of the truck and driven halfway across the country, unwrapped, and yeah, it got some muck on them. And you can see here the rocket's got all the rust over the top of it.
But the thing itself is clean.
The actual silo is spotless, and I would expect a shiny rocket And this silo is going to launch a lot of rockets. I'd expect this one to be pretty dusty and dirty fairly quickly. So, yeah, I don't know. We're both the same opinion that it really feels like the old ones are done by one art designer, and the newer high-def graphics that we are seeing, a lot of them in 17, are made by somebody else who's done the artwork.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's actually true or not. That's the impression that we both have. That, yeah. And I'm not a fan of the rocket silo missing the whole tower at the back. I felt that the tower was important to make the rocket go up, not left or right. Just saying I've got a habit of breaking things in the game, and me launching a rocket,
arguably the rocket itself has a large determining factor on whether or not the rocket goes up or turns.
Yeah, it probably does, but having a control tower to say which way it's meant to go, I feel that's an important feature. So yeah, I don't know. I'm missing the rocket tower at the back. I'm sort of a little bit sad it's gone. But yeah, so we started working on the high resolution of the rocket silo. First decision we made, it would be now a 9x9 entity. So now it's perfectly square. You can rotate the blueprints correctly.
Yay!
Clear from the start. Would make it fit on the ground more. It also meant the structure at the top of the original rocket would have to go, which made me sad. And I didn't actually realize this until right before we started recording this, and I started looking for the actual images for the rocket silo to sort of have them on the screen at the same time, the old one versus the new one, because all the different parts of the rocket silo are separate. The left corner is separate, the right corner is separate, the top left and top right, the actual clamps themselves are separate, the doors are two separate pictures, the rocket itself, the flame itself, the inside of the silo is another picture. There's lots and lots of different pictures, and by all means, if you go to your Factorio folder, database, graphics, entity, rocket silo, and then you can go through all the different pictures. But they are using for their super high resolution 8192 by 8192 pixel textures, which makes their 1080 Ti run out of VRAM to render. Luckily, they've made the rendering as optimized as possible through a Python script of always. Worth noting that with our long-term focus on automation and proper workflow, this could have been a massive problem. Which is funny because the art team has a really good workflow, but it seems the rest of the programming team has had not the best workflow, and this has led to lots of delays in 17, among other things. Just saying, getting that last final jab. The beloved Pasilla helped us fix all those issues of making the crazy animation work the way it does. Although he might have mentioned a few nasty words to himself along the way, and his commit messages contained words like black magic more than once. I love it. I love it. So yeah. And the final note is 17 is on track. As you can see, a lot of things happening at last moment. It seems there shouldn't be any big obstacle in the way of a release next week. And Mojo's got his money on...
Well, the first guess is Monday, beginning of the week.
To give us give Woob as many days as possible to try and fix bugs. Yeah.
Yeah, so they start the week fixing bugs. After that, they might say, oh, we still need to polish a few more things. And then it'd be like Tuesday, Wednesday. But then I look at the calendar, I look at the day, it's the 23rd. 1 week from now, it's Feb 30.
Yep. Yeah. So you figure it'll be next week. Next Friday Facts on our Saturday will be when 17 gets released on Feb 30.
I don't think they want to release on the Thursday or Friday. The way they're going into the weekend, bug fixing, which is not good. You want to be like a Monday. I think it was 15 came with the FFF. 16 just sort of came.
15. No, 16. 16 came in. It had
like a Monday or Tuesday.
It had a special post.
Yes.
It had a special midweek post that it's been released, and I want to say it was the middle of the week.
That's about what I remember. Like not a Monday, like a Tuesday or Wednesday. So it may be that.
Look, don't get me wrong. I'd love to see a Monday release. I guess I would accept a. No, that's 16 now stable. 16 is out, which was on December 15th, which was a Friday.
Oh.
And then they did a Friday Facts. What? Actually, they didn't. They came out on a Friday. Oh no, they'd already released it. They released 16 quietly without a Friday Facts update.
Okay.
So yeah, 16 I want to say came out midweek. Realized choices, blah blah blah. Don't know, can't remember. Yeah, I would love to see a Monday release or a Tuesday release. By the same token, if it's a Friday release, I'll accept a Friday. It doesn't really worry me. I do know the poor devs really don't want to work all weekend fixing bugs, especially potentially game crippling bugs. So I have a feeling they'll probably do a release earlier in a week. If they can't get it done sort of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, they might delay it to the week after and then aim for the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday that week. Because there will be bugs. We know there'll be bugs. There were bugs with 16, there were bugs with 15. The Woob is great at getting all those bugs fixed really, really quickly, and we can both remember with 16 how quick updates were coming out.
And 15 for that matter. I think the first update was only like less than an hour after the main.
Oh, look, these come out in the middle of the night for us normally, and I remember waking up one morning and having to update Factorio, and then at the end of my daytime recording, a couple of hours worth, like 3 whole new versions have been released. Or 3 versions. There had been something insane happening during the day where multiple versions have been released. So, yeah, I'm expecting an early week. But yeah, I guess all we can do is sit around, pray, watch the Friday Facts, go to the Factorio main download page and turn on our auto refresh and make sure we have all our Discord notifications on, our Twitter notifications on, our every other notification on, and wait for word to get around, because I imagine it will explode. I already know a few Twitch streamers that are going to, as soon as it comes out, start streaming. I'll be doing the same. I'll be straight onto YouTube and start recording content instantly the second I find out it's out. Because we've been waiting for 17 for a long time.
It's well overdue.
Yeah. So I think that's it for this Friday Facts.
That is it.
Nothing else?
Nope, we covered everything.
Just a little bit of a nitpick about the weird graphics and the thank you guys for watching. Do hope you enjoy. I hope to see you guys in version 17 content sometime during the week. Alright, thanks for watching. Bye.